Well, good question, and it's a question that's on everybody's mind. We've taken a two-prong approach to this. Firstly, back in 2016, and I was a big part of creating the Homeless Action Plan, and alongside of that is a public safety committee that's also set up that has taken a deeper dive into this. The two-prong approach, we've actually built a couple of supportive housing units, a third one that's on its way. I've taken the strategy that's been out there, it's called the Housing First strategy. Let's put a roof over these folks' head, and then we can work on their social, mental issues. On the other side of that, we have our bylaw and our community response team, and that's attached to, well, it's actually the RCMP members, which is a four-man team that is based in our downtown Chilliwack. I'm sure you've seen them around. I've been on many of the security walks, but these folks get to know the folks on the street and try to help them. And I feel we've done a pretty good job. It's not perfect, but moving forward, I will continue to work on the balance with the business owners, with the residents, and of course, our vulnerable population.
I was involved in the 2020 homeless count, a triennial event. So every 3 years we go out and we find those people that are homeless. And the results of that count show that around half of the people that are homeless in our community have been residents of this area for more than 11 years. And most of the people were actually born and raised here. So I think there's a little bit of misconception of where our homeless are originating from. They're our brothers, they're our sisters, they're our families. I'm a supporter of Housing First initiatives. I believe that when we house people, we reduce crime, we reduce substance use, and we reduce costs to all levels of government, not only the civic government, but to the provincial government and our health services. The provincial government has a mandate of Housing First. I'm glad to see that the federal government has also joined in this issue to face these challenges going forward. These all result in a better life, not only for our marginalized communities, but for our businesses and our citizens in general. So I would continue that work, building the partnerships with the senior governments, community groups, and private industry, because they all bring tools to the table in conjunction with the city to make sure that we can work for better.
Yeah, I think there's two very real challenges here when we think about the homeless population and businesses that need to run their businesses. We need to have compassion and we need to treat people with empathy that are in these situations. But we also do need to make sure that they're supported. So we need to have the right infrastructure in the community to support them. And that includes mental health, that includes physical health, be it the hospital and nonprofits that exist in the area. And we also need to make sure we're working on housing. So making sure these people have places to live. And I think there's some great projects out there in BC that we can look to. I know in the news recently, Duncan was building tiny homes in little pods, not in large groupings. I think that we get lots of problems when that happens, but little pods where people can feel safe and be housed so they're not sleeping on the streets. And we need to take care of these people. But we also do need to make sure that the police are adequately resourced to do what they need to do to keep people safe and to keep businesses safe and operating. And so they need proper equipment and training for how to support these individuals and take measures where necessary to keep our streets safe.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's probably one of the biggest challenges that our council face. No one in this city, and certainly no one on council, wants to turn our backs on the people experiencing homelessness, yet in balance we have to take care of our residents and our businesses in this city. Let's just roll that back a little bit. I'm kept up to speed as a co-chair of the Public Safety Committee and the chair of the Integrated Community Safety Task Force as to actually what the situation is on the street. The people experiencing homelessness is a population that's extremely transient. You can see them in town, they'll be gone the next day. I do know that we are seeing new faces here in Chilliwack, but I also know that many of the faces that we do see day to day have actually left the city. So there is a bit of an ebb and a flow in this transient community that comes and goes from the city of Chilliwack. What I don't think people know is that when we talk about supportive housing is only for the people that are homeless that are from Chilliwack. It does not extend to out-of-town folks that may be visiting our community. I've heard from the community that their fear is that we're so good at what we're doing, they'll come from everywhere. And by them, I mean the people who experience homelessness. That's not quite true. We have now over 95 supportive housing units. We have over 150 shelter beds. They're all being used. But this is the way to go. This is how we have to deal with the problem, is to take care of them to the extent that we can, along with our federal and provincial partners, but also watch our communities and businesses so they're not suffering. I know this is a long answer, but it's an important one. There'll never be a place in Chilliwack where supportive housing or shelter beds or anything of the like will simply be placed in a neighborhood or a business community or an area of the city without public consultation. These areas have to be rezoned, and as part of that rezoning process, businesses and communities have the absolute right to have input into the process, and that's where your voices will be heard to keep us in balance. Until we take care of the mental health and drug addiction issues within our homeless population in this city, we'll just keep a finger in the dike and hope for the best. These people are the responsibility, and their medical conditions are the responsibility of Fraser Health and the province of BC. And until there's adequate treatment beds and treatments and the staff for these people, we're going to keep working very hard at a problem that's not ever going to go away.
This is a tough question, but I think that we can all agree that those supports are in place to ensure that our most vulnerable community members are looked after in their times of need. When people are ready to stop experiencing addiction or end living in homelessness, it's imperative that we are there with wraparound services to nurture their exit from this life. Experiencing homelessness and addiction is a miserable and dangerous way to live. It's also incredibly expensive, both from a municipal perspective and a provincial perspective, to leave people unhoused. And this brings us full circle back to that affordable housing piece. We shouldn't have citizens choosing between paying the rent and living a healthy lifestyle, eating good food, and investing back into our local economy. We need to make sure that our most vulnerable are housed. We have many people in Chilliwack living on the brink of homelessness and in abject poverty because their rents are so high. So we need to close that gap, increase that inventory, and ensure that there are homes waiting for people.
Well, certainly, as human nature is, we tend to have compassion and we want to pick people up when they're down. And I think Chilliwack has demonstrated that at an exceptional level. Obviously, housing is a provincial responsibility, but we have to work towards helping those on the streets, those who need the care that they are missing. Since I've been on council since 2015, there's been significant progress that's been made within our community, and people don't always recognize that. We've waived in the last term, so 2014 to 2018, over $2 million of development cost charges for supportive housing units in our community. Since 2019 to 2022, another $3 million. We've added, in that time span of 2014 to 2022, 372 units of supportive housing units in our community. We are making huge progress. When it comes to business in our community, we know that there's challenges. We know that no one wants to come to their workplace in the morning and have to deal with certain things. We are working towards making sure that the walkabouts that are taking place every day in our community with bylaw, with Griffin Security and the RCMP, continue. We've provided our RCMP recently with 2 electric bikes. They've been out on their bikes, but now we've provided them with electric bikes so they can have a greater distance to cover. Lots of things are being done in our community, and I think it could be a lot worse. But as human nature is, we do want to help those with needs. And it's unfortunate that this is not a Chilliwack problem. This is a national problem. And for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be getting any easier.
This is something that council wrestles with all the time. Build it and they will come is something that happens, obviously, but at the same time, we want to be there to help people who are experiencing homelessness get off the street and get a roof over their heads. With District 1881 leading the charge of revitalization of the downtown, we want to keep this momentum going. Since 2018, we have added over 200 units of subsidized housing for people who are experiencing homelessness. And I can imagine what that would look like right now if we didn't have those 200 units. The housing first concept is a very important concept whereby the only path for recovery for people experiencing homelessness is to get a roof over their head and start the healing process.
I hear you. I struggle with that myself because our church is right downtown, and a lot of people refer to our church as, oh, that place where those people hang out. Yeah, that's us. We have been torn ourselves about hiring security companies to move people along, but on the other hand, being a place of refuge. I do support environmental design that helps people find the right places to hang out. And those places are not our front doors of our businesses and our churches and our homes. They just aren't. We know that there are a lot of people that can't be helped easily. I don't have the answers for those. But we do know that there are a lot of people who can be helped, who are open to having shelter provided or having meals provided. Nobody grew up saying, I want to be a drug addict. That we know that. Another thing that makes a big difference is preventing that homelessness by providing more affordable housing. There are people who don't have homes who have full-time jobs. We don't pay them enough. We don't provide proper homes for them, and that is our responsibility. Some people say, how come it's my responsibility to take care of those other people? But we're all in this together, and even if you're a hard-nosed, I only care about my pocketbook person, and you're not, but what if you were? Making sure that people have safe shelter and medical care benefits us all, because the cost of policing, the cost of emergency health services, and the cost of emergency services, period, is killing us. So we'll do the right thing. We'll continue to fight that battle. We'll look at other municipalities for good ideas, and we'll stick together.
So the fear that all of us have is we want to look after people in our community, but we never wanted to do such a good job that we attract from neighboring cities. It is something that frontline workers on the street in Chilliwack are constantly monitoring, and when they do see new faces, they will do their best to return them to their hometowns where they can get family and friend support. As a side note, I do feel like the social service agencies in Chilliwack do a fantastic job of collaborating and ensuring that those in need are sent to the right agencies. I'm going to be honest, when I was elected 4 years ago, I expected that by this point in time we would have made a huge dent in the homeless population. But I have to admit, it's a much smaller dent than I had hoped for. But we need to keep in mind that over 200 people have a roof over their heads now that didn't 4 years ago. Having said all that, our businesses and their employees should not feel that they have to fend for themselves, so we need to maintain regular patrols of bylaw, security, and RCMP. Boots on the street. We need to teach businesses how to protect their buildings through CPTED, which is the crime prevention through environmental design, which teaches us how to deter crime and vandalism through building design. The simplest of changes can make a difference. I do want to add that I am not under the impression that homeless are at the root cause of everything bad in Chilliwack. There are certainly the house that are contributing their fair share. A couple of pilot projects that are in place right now I think are great first steps. They're small, but everything helps. Right now there's the homeless cleaning up downtown and being paid a wage to do so. I feel that should continue and perhaps expand. The pride that comes along with it is a good first step to recovery. Another pilot project is the Portland Loo, providing proper washroom facilities to those without. Like I say, there's no silver bullet out there, but if we can do small things, we can start working towards improving our city and improving our business environment, not only downtown, but throughout the whole city.
This is a very delicate question. There is so many options that we have. We could go hardcore and not deal with this as a business owner, but we get no further ahead. We need to have a plan at City Hall, which comes from provincial, which comes from federal. Everyone needs to be involved. Coming from a downtown business, if you can't accept what may happen, then you won't be prepared for when it does happen. What we do now is we all look after each other. Each business downtown looks after the one beside them. And for us now, it's working out. But for future and new businesses coming to Chilliwack, come see us. Come talk to City Hall. Come talk to the business beside you. Working together, finding treatment, finding housing, we can make this problem less of a problem.
Well, I think it's really important to look at any policy that you're making with empathy, looking at these are human beings that are experiencing, traumatic events in their lives where they ended up resulting in some of the challenges that we have across the city. We have such a wonderful human resource capability here in the city of Chilliwack with the nonprofits and the social services that we have. And we're such a giving community of people that want to stand up and support. But it's also weighing that against the small business owners. It's weighing that against neighborhoods that are getting plagued by petty vandalism and crime. And it's looking at what we can do in terms of crime and public safety to support them without ostracizing folks or stigmatizing folks who are down on their luck and need support and help. So it's really taking a balanced approach, and it's something that I'm very proud to contribute around the council table. It's looking at the balanced approach, looking at the supports that are required, and oftentimes those supports rest with the province of British Columbia and what we can do to advocate for the services and the needs of a very diverse but challenging population of individuals that need support. And so I've been a huge advocate with the province of British Columbia to increase health services, to increase mental health and substance use services for folks who desperately need them. And I'll continue to do so if I'm elected again.
So the balance for finding that fine line between social services and supporting the business community is exactly that. It's a fine line. Every community across our province and in Canada is seeing the effects of homelessness in their own community. We are feeling the same pressures here. Chilliwack, the city of Chilliwack has done an incredible job creating Chilliwack Healthier Community and providing support services and providing a space for support services to get together, share resources, and support our local residents with amazing and powerful services. These things aren't drawing more people to Chilliwack, but they're providing the needed support and service for the residents of Chilliwack that need it the most. Most of the homelessness issues are coming from drug addiction, from the misdiagnosis or non-diagnosis of mental health illnesses or challenges, as well as our housing affordability. So there's many people that are on the streets that don't have mental health issues, but are just sitting in a situation where housing is no longer affordable. It's important that we're providing these services and supports to all these individuals, which in turn increases our opportunities for our local businesses. When people have food security, when people have mental health support, and when people have the opportunity for housing first, we can provide those services and make a very viable, profitable, healthy, safe community?
That's a good question, and it's a very complex question. I can't answer it in 2 minutes, but I think that we need to look at both sides of this problem and work together as a community. So what I mean by that is when businesses say that people experiencing homelessness are affecting their business, we need to listen and we need to do something about it. At the same time, we need to educate people and destigmatize this idea that everyone experiencing homelessness is dangerous. You know, I had a recent experience where I was downtown with somebody else and I was shopping with them, and one of them was a little bit trepidatious, and I didn't really realize it at first, and they were afraid to shop down there. And of course, I'm not afraid to shop down there because I've been educated. So a little bit of education goes a long way. A little bit of destigmatization goes a long way and allows people to come and shop at those businesses because now they've been educated as to what the real threats are and what the perceived threats are. So going back to my original thought though, speaking to businesses and actually taking it seriously when they say that their businesses are being affected. They know their bottom line. We need to address it quickly, but we need to do it with a trauma-informed lens, and we need to educate the community as a whole for destigmatization.